everyone, welcome back to your welcome. I hope everyone is having the best week. Today I wanted to talk about shifting from not feeling good enough to feeling more than worthy. First of all, before we get into it, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that follow button, whichever platform you are, whether that's on podcast or YouTube. 5-star rating would be lovely as well. Now let's get started. So this is something that I have really been working on in my inner work journey, because I realized a lot of the reasons I wasn't getting what I wanted in life or things weren't going my way was because I didn't feel good enough for it. And I can recall back when I was even like in 5th grade, I was in a gifted program. So I was in the gifted and talented program for my entire life, at least from elementary school to high school. I learned how to read when I was 2. I was supposed to skip kindergarten, yada, 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 right? So when I was in the 5th grade in particular, I went to an actual gifted and talented school, which you had to, test for and obviously be on some level in order to be accepted. But I've always been so bad at math. Like, from the time that I can remember, I've just been terrible at math. It's never been my thing. And I remember in the 2nd grade, even just feeling so frustrated trying to figure out math problems. Like, I just am not a math girl. And so when I was in the 5th grade, they separated us by color based on how we ranked in our grades. But math was never like my strong suit. So for math, I was always getting B's. I never got A's. Like, it would even be difficult for me to get a B because I just was so bad at it. And it really impacted the way that I viewed myself, because you could tell by group that they were separating you by who is the strongest at everything and who like lacks certain things. And from there, I just felt so defeated that I started to feel like I don't need to try, because trying doesn't get me anywhere, right? So throughout my inner work journey, I just say that to say throughout my inner work journey, that is what has been a major aha moment for me, is going back to the first time that I didn't feel good enough. And that was probably one of the first times that I felt that way. And of course, as an adult, I've learned just because I wasn't good at math doesn't mean that I wasn't worthy. And so throughout the past, at least the last couple of years, I've really started to reframe the way that I think about things that don't work out, and how I shift from feeling like, hold on, that didn't work out because it wasn't meant to, not because I'm not worthy of it. That just means that something better is coming. And a good way to do this and to start to even understand the way that your brain thinks about things when it comes to what we receive and what we think that we want that doesn't work out is by doing just that. Thinking and reflecting back on a time where you thought that you really wanted something and you tried so hard to get it, and even though you received signs that it maybe wasn't for you, that you just really manifested that thing that you thought you wanted, and then you realized you didn't really want it. And it's so funny because I saw this TikTok recently where this girl was like, I finally got the purse, and when I got the purse, I realized it was just a purse. And it obviously just isn't about a purse, clearly. It's about the things that we think that we want so badly that when we finally get them, we realize we don't really want them. And a lot of times when it's something that's not meant for you, you're going to get signs that it's not meant for you. I know in particular that my last relationship, I knew from an early time in us dating that it wasn't meant for me. Like, I just knew that it wasn't meant for me because, first of all, he was doing things that didn't align with integrity of the man that I deserve. It didn't align with my values, but I persisted, right? Because I saw qualities in him that I did like, and I was ignoring the red flags that were a big no-no. And so I remember and me and my mom were just talking about this, and I was praying so hard for this man. Like, I really want it to work out. I really hope that this works out. I pray that I get this guy and that he commits to me and does all the things that I want him to do, when in reality, it wasn't meant for me. But like me and my mom were talking about, you ask God for something enough, he's gonna give it to you. And sometimes it deters what he truly wants for you. And so I say that to say that when we are manifesting, and I truly believe in manifesting, I truly believe in all that woo-woo stuff, but when we're doing that, we really need to be careful about what we're asking for and what we are ready to get from what we're asking for. So a lot of times now, just based on that example, I will now pray to God and I will ask him for what is best for me, what is for the highest good of all, not just for me, but for everyone involved. And I leave it in his hands, because I know that what leaves me wasn't meant to be, and that if it leaves, that means something better is coming. That means there is a better door waiting for me. And I've even visualized this, like especially when I ended my last relationship, just seeing this door and just shutting it and then turning around and seeing this brighter door. Now, am I in a relationship currently? No, but that's because I now allow God to bring in what is for me, and what is not for me, I allow it to leave. And so a lot of times they also say to use that prayer, that removal prayer, like if it's not meant for me, please remove it from my life. And when I say that works as well, it really does. And I think a big reason why I was such a control freak and not trusting that what left was supposed to leave and trusting something better to come was because I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself. So if I don't trust myself, how can I have faith, true faith in things really working out? Self-concept and faith in the universe and spirit and God are so interlinked that it's crazy. And I really didn't think that, you know, like I've always believed in God, but I had such a hard time truly trusting. And once I started to, like I said, do the inner work and really understand who I was, what I wanted out of life, what I wanted out of a partner, what I wanted out of a career, what I wanted out of my friends, my family, then I trusted that God was going to bring what was right for me into my life and remove what wasn't, and be okay with what was removed from my life. And so if you're like me and you struggle with self-concept and just having a true identity and living authentically, I have videos about self-concept and about even shifting from who you are now to your future self and journaling and all of that stuff. So I'll try to link a couple of videos below for that. But in general, a lot of times you're gonna have to repeat the same thing to yourself until you truly believe it. And I know some people say affirmations, like they don't work, but I think when it comes to affirmations, just be careful about which ones you're using and make sure that it makes you feel something. So sometimes I remember when I first started with my journey, I would use an affirmation and I would feel this like heart-wrenching feeling of like, I don't actually believe it. And instead of saying, I'm not gonna say it anymore, I just started to shift the way that I even spoke to myself. And so I changed a couple of words around, or I would say, you know what, I don't believe this yet. I don't believe that for example, I don't believe that I'm good enough yet, but I know that I'm doing the inner work and that one day I will truly feel like I'm good enough. Reframe that. Don't think that you have to just say affirmations as they are and that's the only way to manifest, that's the only way to get what you want. No, the key here is to truly feel it in your body. Be able to feel those elevated emotions when you're speaking to yourself. And it's okay to not feel that way yet. It's okay to not have to say like, oh, I'm a millionaire, I make $1 million a year. Because if you don't feel it, all you're doing is creating a blockage. And so instead of saying like, oh, I'm a millionaire, say, I'm not a millionaire yet, but I know that I'm doing the work. And I know that by me doing the work, God is gonna meet me halfway. And one day I will be a millionaire. I will wake up and actually have $1 million in my bank account. And that sounds so simple, and it really is simple, but you really have to say things that make you trust in yourself more and trust and have faith in the universe, God, spirit, whatever you want to call it more. And to be honest, sometimes you're not going to know what you want, and that's okay. But I think what is important is knowing how you want to feel and having those elevated emotions when you think about how you feel when whatever comes into your life arrives, because then you're able to distinguish a test from something that's true. And as someone who constantly used to overthink, and I still struggle with overthinking sometimes, a way that I've been able to start to distinguish my intuition from a anxious feeling is because anxiety is going to make you think over and over again about it. Anxiety is going to make you think how you're not worthy of it. Anxiety is going to tell you that you suck, whereas your intuition will never speak to you that way. Spirit, which I think is heavily involved in us being able to use our intuition because our third eye is connecting directly to source. When you are connected to source and you are intuitively having a thought, you're not speaking down to yourself. And sometimes it arrives as a whisper. Anytime that I've heard directly from source, it has been a whisper. I remember even, for example, me and my ex, when we were still together at the time, I didn't know yet that he was doing all the things that he was doing and involved in all the things that he was involved in. And I remember we were preparing to move into our new apartment in like a month. And I remember vividly, I was driving through our gate, our apartment gate, not through it, but you know, it was up. And I had a thought of, you're not moving into that apartment. And I was like, what? Like, it was literally a whisper, like, you're not moving into that apartment. And I remember thinking like, huh, like whatever. But I realized now that was my intuition telling me, preparing me for what was next, preparing me for like, hey, this isn't the right decision. And I did not listen, obviously, and that catapulted into other things. But since I have that example, and I'm able to recognize more of what my intuition looks like, I feel less called to stay in things that don't serve me. I feel less called to beg for things that aren't meant for me, and I'm able to trust more. And another way that you build trust with yourself, with God, is by understanding and reflecting on past experiences that match exactly what you were looking for. And like you all know, if you're not new to my channel, you know I call that a positive stack of experiences. And the more positive experiences that you build, the more trust you have in yourself, and the more trust you have in source and God, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to start calling it spirit, because that's the word that I love. I call it my spirit team. The more you trust in your spirit team to guide you to the things that are meant for you, to guide you to the experiences, the men or women, depending on what you prefer, to the career that's meant for you, to the positions that are meant for you, to the opportunities, the love that is meant for you. So now, in the same way that we thought about a time that we really wanted something, begged for something, and then we got it and we didn't really want it, think about a time that you didn't get what you want. Think about a time that you didn't get what you want, and instead of like ruminating in it and really begging for it, that you released it. You surrendered and said, I trust that because this did not work out, that something better is coming. Because it's either this or something better. God is never here to let me down. But at the same time, God is listening from your thoughts to God's ears, from your mouth to God's ears. So we want to make sure that we're watching the way that we think. And of course, it's not easy, but like I said, with practice and with being able to reflect on your positive experience stack, you're able to more and more trust in that. So when you think about a time that something didn't work out and you allowed it to not work out, and you just said, thank you, God, I know something better is coming. Did something better come? I guarantee you that if you really think about it, that something better came. And if you're watching this and you have just experienced a major loss or a failure, wait. Just be patient, because sometimes it doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it happens within days, weeks, months, but whatever and whenever it happens, reflect back on that. Reflect back on watching this video and going, wow. And I actually, if you have had that happen, if you haven't had it happen yet, I would love for you to comment and tell me when it does happen, because I love hearing like stories and hearing good things. Like it's just warms my heart to know that life that we want, that we are receiving, because that is what we deserve. And especially as ladies, we deserve the best. And if you're watching my channel, then you already are on your way to knowing that you deserve the best, or that you know that you deserve the best. You know that you're doing the inner work. You know that you're doing what's necessary, and that you're growing and you're elevating. And so of course you deserve the best. And so what are you gonna get? The best. So for example, and then I'm gonna wrap this up because I actually have somewhere to go. I experienced a failure a few months ago. So I but in real estate, when someone wants to list their house, they don't always necessarily just go for the first person that they reach out to. They interview different agents and see who's gonna be the best fit. So I met with this client, and I give him my listing presentation, and I know that I have a killer listing presentation. I don't like to sugarcoat, but I also like to stay positive. And I think that's just like my mental health background, just making sure people feel really good about the experience, because it is a lot of change. And so within both of my businesses, I remind people that change is a good thing, and I like to be an advocate for change and also embrace the change myself. Anyway, I did my thing, whatever. We had a follow-up call to talk about comps and like what I think the price should be once I had walked through the house. So the very next day he calls me, he said, this was a really tough decision, but I decided to go with a different agent. I really loved your presentation, and I wish you the best. I wished him the best. Some agents would be salty about that, like F him, like that didn't work out, like why didn't he choose me, blah, 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 blah. I released it, I let it go. Of course, I reflected and said, okay, how could I have positioned myself differently? Because every seller is different. So I did learn some lessons about, even though I have a lot to offer and I'm willing to do X, X, Y, and Z. Not every seller wants you to do X, Y, and Z. That every seller is thinking about that, because if they already have a lot going on, which he did, sometimes you need to take a step back and allow them to direct things more, right? It just depends on the client. So of course, I reflected, I changed my listing presentation or added some things based on the characteristics of the client. But I said, you know what? Regardless, I'm worthy. Something better will come along, because it's either this or something better. You guys, I kid you not. I kid you not. I, maybe a couple months later, now have 3 listings upcoming on the market. I got 3 listings. And that was just so amazing to me to just witness. Like, wow, when you allow spirit to work, spirit be working. And that is such confirmation to me that I'm on the right path, that I made the right decision when it came to my mindset. And so I really took that and added it to my positivity stack of experiences. Like, wow, let's keep going with this. Let's keep pushing on. And I do the same thing with guys. If I am dating a guy or seeing a guy and he presents a red flag, instead of leaning into it more when I have my evidence that I need, I release, I remove. And I know, like, that just wasn't meant for me. Like, full stop. Okay, last example of a failure that actually turned into a win. So a few months ago, and I think I mentioned this maybe, a few months ago, I had a client who was trying to commit mortgage fraud, basically. I don't want to get into the ins and outs because it's honestly a crazy story that I don't think is all the way wrapped up yet. At least on our end is wrapped up, but there are other levels and other things that, you know, may have happened that is outside of my hands. Anyway, I really needed that money. When I say I needed that money, I'm like, okay, like, what is gonna happen? Like, all right, a failure, awesome. And in entrepreneurship, it's already not easy. You have your ups and your downs, and building trust with spirit has been my biggest and best challenge. And I feel like I am finally like on the other side of it. But anyway, after that happened, I didn't like get bent out of shape about it. I didn't even cry about it, because it is very frustrating to do so much work for months for someone and not receive a paycheck. But instead of harboring on it, I said, you know what, something better is coming. When I tell you, the same day, I get a call from a friend and she's like, hey, I have a house, I have a referral for you to list the house. So actually, not only did I get 3 listings, but I have 4. And that's just to say that when you trust in spirit, spirit be moving. And so build your positivity stack of experiences and trust that something better is coming, even if you don't see it yet. Because life and accomplishments don't just exist in a 3D. They start in the 5D first. They start before it even comes into the physical realm. And so if I trust that just because I don't see it yet doesn't mean that it's not coming into my life, the easier and the quicker I'm able to receive. And I'm in that state right now because no one is perfect. Life isn't perfect. But no matter what, I'm trusting that God's got it. And it's not easy. It's not easy, especially when you're type A, you're a control freak. I'm a middle child, so I've been through some things. I've had to rely on myself a lot throughout my life because that's just the way that things, the dice were rolled, right? Like, yes, I have parents, but as a middle child and a Capricorn, heavy Capricorn, it was already hard for them to figure out like how to help me. I was very independent, and so I suppressed a lot as a kid. And even in reflecting on how my relationship with my parents has changed has been such a blessing, because I can no longer say that they're not here for me. I can no longer say and have the excuse of, well, this happened to me. Not only have they apologized thoroughly, but now they have been there for me so much in my adulthood. And so I even use that as a positive experience reminder. Like, hey, the old India who was challenged, who had challenges with accepting help, the old India who felt like she needed to control everything, that India no longer exists. And look at the examples of why. So really hone in and evaluate and review and reflect on your past and your present, and allow yourself to shift from, like I said, feeling not good enough to more than worthy. Because I guarantee you, even if, let's be real. Come here. Even if you don't feel good enough right now, I am here to remind you that you are more than worthy. You deserve the best life. You deserve joy. You deserve the love that you want. You deserve the career that you want. You deserve to live as extravagant and as luxurious and as peaceful and as easeful as you want. Do you believe it? If you don't believe it yet, wait. Review this if you want. And one day you will wake up and you will feel that way. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. You keep doing that inner work and the inner work will work for you. That wraps up this episode. I hope that you gained some insight from this episode, that you feel encouraged, because that is really my goal of this channel, is to help people feel encouraged and motivated to keep going, And if I can change one person's mind, that is all that matters to me. And I'm so grateful for the community that I'm building. I'm so grateful for every person that subscribes and watches and listens to me on either my podcast or my YouTube channel. Very grateful. Please leave a comment if you have any comments or anything that you want to hear. Also, my email is in my description, so please feel free to email me if you have a story that you want to share, a business that you want to share. This is a community that I'm building, and I would love to contribute and keep contributing to this ecosystem and keep spreading joy, because when you spread joy, you receive joy. Anyways, I hope that you all have a great rest of your week, great Labor Day. Make sure you get some rest and have some fun too. And I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.